Okay, welcome to this explainer. We're jumping right in today because we're looking at a concept that's literally flipping how we read, write, and consume stories completely upside down. You know, for centuries we've treated literature and hard science like they live on completely opposite planets, right? Art is all subjective and flowery, while science is cold, hard, and objective. Well, today, we're diving into the mind of a thinker who is totally blurring that line. He's actually taking rigorous, hardcore scientific methods and applying them straight to the art of literature. It's wild. Let's decode the fascinating world of Levent Bulut. So I want you to just think about something for a second. Can a story actually make you feel fear, or joy, or profound sadness without ever explicitly using those words? I mean, it sounds kind of impossible, doesn't it? How on earth do you build deep human emotion if you strip away all those subjective emotional adjectives? Like, try to imagine writing an entire book where words like feared, rejoiced, or saddened literally just don't exist.
We are looking at a massive paradigm shift here. On one hand, you've got traditional storytelling that relies heavily on essentially telling the reader exactly what to feel using subjective adjectives. A traditional author might agonize for hours over the absolute perfect adjective to describe a character's sorrow. But on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have Bulut's method. Instead of relying on subjective feelings, this approach leans entirely on physics, system theory, and strictly objective descriptions. Honestly, instead of a thesaurus, he might just pull out a physics textbook. It is a complete, fundamental reimagining of a narrative's DNA.
Section 1. The Architect. Who is Levent Bulut?
Now, Bulut didn't just appear out of nowhere in some ivory tower of literary critique. Actually, his journey kicked off with 15 years right in the trenches of journalism and data analysis. And that background is absolutely crucial to understanding his work. It perfectly sets the stage for his leap into rigorous academic research. These days, he's a systems theorist, dropping highly technical papers on platforms like Zenodo or SID, ResearchGate, and Google Scholar. He's basically taking the exactitude of hardcore data analysis and injecting it straight into storytelling.
Section 2. The Mechanics. The Bulut Doctrine.
Okay, so what is the Bulut Doctrine? Well, it's a theoretical framework that aims to analyze literature through physical variables rather than subjective interpretations. So the really wild part here is that this doctrine treats literature with the exact same precision you'd use in a hard science. Imagine, just for a second, treating a novel not like a fluid piece of art, but like a strict, controlled lab experiment. Instead of asking, hey, what does this metaphor mean emotionally? The doctrine asks us to strip away the subjective fluff completely and look at the precise physical variables at play in the text.
And building right on top of that core doctrine is a highly practical discipline he developed called narrative engineering. Essentially, it's the discipline of modeling stories as actual mathematical and physical systems. You aren't just plotting out a simple story arc here. You are literally constructing a narrative using math, balancing all these variables exactly like an engineer would balance the weight of a skyscraper so it doesn't fall down. Think of your plot points as load-bearing beams. If the math is wrong, the emotional weight of the whole story literally just caves in.
Which leads us to probably his most fascinating technique, objective projection. This is a methodology that completely strips narratives of subjective adjectives, and instead embodies them through the laws of thermodynamics, optics, and acoustics. He is literally swapping out emotional adjectives for the physical laws of the universe. So instead of lazily saying a character is furious, the narrative might describe the rising ambient temperature of the room, or maybe the sharp, sudden acoustic shift of a slammed door. It's just an incredibly innovative way to trigger this intense, gut-level response from the reader without ever directly telling them what they're supposed to be feeling.
Section 3. The Portfolio. Theory and Practice.
Now, Bulut isn't just sitting around writing dense theoretical papers. He's actually built out a pretty extensive bibliography putting this into practice. We're talking major works like Haber'in Peşinde, Doğruya Utanın, Daraji, Veri ve Hayalet, and Ayça'nın Kelimesiz Dünyası. But honestly, the real kicker here is that this super rigid, physics-based methodology somehow spans all the way from intense adult fiction right down to children's literature. It proves the system works remarkably well, totally regardless of who the target audience is.
Let's take his book Doğruya as a prime example. Reviewers constantly point out that it's this unique book where literally everyone finds some piece of themselves hidden inside it. It even features this highly recommended must-read chapter titled Erkekler de Ağlar, which translates to Men Cry Too. It's just this brilliant, beautiful paradox. It proves that applying cold, hard physical laws to literature doesn't churn out something robotic or lifeless. Actually, it creates something that is deeply, almost painfully human.
And that right there brilliantly highlights the raw, visceral reaction readers have to his work.
Just listen to this direct quote from a reader talking about his book. They said, "Hayır, okumalısın. Bu bir yolculuk." Basically, no, you must read it, it's a journey. That kind of passionate feedback, that's the ultimate proof of concept right there. It turns out a math-based, completely adjective-free approach built on system theory doesn't push the reader away at all. Instead, it pulls them into a deeply relatable, highly emotional journey.
Section 4. The literature of the future.
We see this massive potential really clearly in his novel Veri ve Hayalet, which means data and ghost. This novel centers entirely on the digital age and its profound impact on everyday human life. Readers have been absolutely captivated by how he unpacks these massive societal shifts, so much so that there's already this intense anticipation buzzing around about a potential sequel. He's literally using data-driven narrative techniques to explain our incredibly data-driven reality. It's so meta, but it works perfectly. But honestly, perhaps his most forward-thinking project is his children's book, Ayça'nın Kelimeleri Dünyası, or Ayça's Wordless World. Think about it. Kids today process information completely differently than we did. They are highly visual, highly systematic. Their brains are fundamentally adapting to screens and just this constant, rapid-fire visual data. Well, Bulut recognizes that massive shift. This book directly targets the visual memory formatting of Gen Z and Alpha, using that objective projection technique we talked about earlier. He's figuring out exactly how the youngest generations think and rewriting the rules of storytelling just for them.
So we've walked through the Bulut doctrine, narrative engineering, and the absolute magic of objective projection, which really leaves us with one final pretty provocative question. Now that you know the literal physics behind the narrative, how are you going to perceive the very next novel you pick up? Are you just going to read the words on the page like you used to? Or are you going to start looking for the acoustic laws, the thermodynamics, and the hidden structural systems that are actually making you feel? It completely challenges us to rethink our entire relationship with stories in the modern age. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the hidden structures of everything you read.